Hello, beautiful people from all around the world. How's it been? How's it going? And how is life treating you? Well, I really hope everything is going just great. Welcome to another episode of the Paperless Chat. In the past few episodes, we have brought in industry experts to talk about the perks of getting into a digital transformation journey for organizations out there. Now, in those episodes, we did discuss about some interesting factors of why it's high time for organizations to leave their paper journey behind and get into the paperless journey moving forward in this digital era. Now, whenever we speak about digital transformation, there's always one question that pops up in the air, and that is transformation really secure? Now, who else would be a great person to talk to about this other than a security professional? Yes, you have guessed it right. In this episode today, we do have a security professional who will be talking to us and spilling some interesting facts on is digital transformation really secure? So, without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce you to Sujit Christy over here. Welcome to the episode, Sujit.
Thank you, Alicia, for having me here. And thank you, everyone who invited me to be part of this, especially to speak to all those beautiful people out there. So I'm going to walk you through as to how you can stay secure in this digital transformation journey.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you here, Sujit. So, we did ask the questions. Now it's time to ask you. How's days been treating you so far?
It's awesome. Wonderful weather out there. Lovely time to be at the beach, maybe, chill.
I know, right? But unfortunately, you're stuck here with me today.
Absolutely.
I thought you would disagree.
It's a pleasure to be here because we want to secure all the beautiful people out there. So it's an awesome time to be here.
Perfect. So, Sujit, now, by the end of this episode, if you want our audience to remember you by a story, now this can be something related to security as well. So, if we had to remember Sujit by a story, what would that story be?
I would say there are several stories, but what that comes to my mind right now, I would like to be remembered as a person who really brought security mindset to Sri Lanka, especially bringing the certification CISSP was brought in by me so that people in the country can sit for the exam here in Sri Lanka than going overseas.
Wow.
So the people in the community, the security community, they know it, but I would like everybody else also to know that in 2004 that we brought in the exam to Sri Lanka.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow, that's definitely a good story to remember you by. So, Sujit, now a very interesting question awaits you. Okay. At the very beginning of this episode, I was just talking to our audience that whenever we talk about digital transformation, there's always this one question that hangs up in the air. And that is digital transformation really secure? Now, there are most people out there, for them, taking this digital path is like taking a leap into the unknown. They are intimidated and feel that it is too risky. Now, would you go ahead and let us know in this thought process, what are the misconceptions that you have seen with your experience in this industry? Is digital transformation secure? And is it something that we should be fearing about or really embracing?
Awesome question, right? And I think you made me think
Okay.
to give a response.
Hmm.
Is it really secure? I would say it's very subjective. Uh, yes and no. I'll give you an analogy.
Okay.
Today we are seated here in this beautiful building
Yes.
uh, doing this conversation. There is always this trust that this building is strong, that it will not fall apart.
Hmm.
Why does that give me that feeling? Because I'm sure the people who designed it, constructed it, paid a lot of attention to safety.
Yes.
The important question we need to ask ourselves, especially the people who innovate and bring about transformation, are we driving these conversations and initiative with two words, right? Two keywords. One, is it is safety built into it?
Okay.
And can people trust?
Trust it. Yes.
If we address these two, and if the answer to these are yes, then we have a very positive product transformation journey where everybody is going to jump into it.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So let me elaborate a little bit.
Hmm.
Uh, Typically, you don't hear the word safety in a information security conversation.
Okay.
People typically talk about safety in the context of physical safety,
Physical
right?
safety.
Or you
Yes.
do a fire drill. Why do you do a fire drill? Because you want to save human lives
Yes. From the fire.
from the fire
Yeah.
or from a disaster.
Yeah.
Right? So in that context, today we are reaching a stage. It's no longer security, but a safety conversation.
Safety. Okay.
Right? So why a safety conversation? Everything we do is going to impact people's life.
Hmm.
There could be an incident, a breach, somebody loses their life earnings. What next for that individual? What next for their family?
Hmm.
So, a digital failure in terms of a control or a process would ultimately determine that person's well being.
Hmm.
Right, so that's a thought I've been reflecting in the last couple of months. We need to change this conversation.
Hmm. Okay.
So if we start talking about safety, building safety guardrails in our processes, then the conversation is much more easier.
Easier.
Right? So then we talk about various security aspects like, are we ensuring confidentiality? Are you ensuring integrity? Are you ensuring availability?
Accessibility.
Accessibility, all these comes in because
Hmm.
at the end of the day, people are trying to get something done.
Done. In the secure way possible.
Absolutely.
Right. Right.
Oh,
Amazing. Amazing. All right. Very interesting, Sujit. So I just want to, continue the flow from that
mhm.
question. Now, we are very prone to ask, is digital transformation secure? But what do you think about and what kind of a risk people are putting themselves into by still abiding with paper processes?
Okay. Again, it's a thought-provoking question. I'm sure the beautiful people out there are
Out
also
there?
concerned about this, right? Because sometimes people would say, "Hey, I would use this because somebody else is using it." Right? They're influenced.
Influence.
Right? But we are reaching a stage in our life, in the economy, that we are talking about transformation.
Yes.
The Sri Lankan government is talking about
Transformation.
transformation. Various other governments are talking about bringing efficiency into citizen services.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the private sector and other sectors which are also dependent on certain policies which the government make.
Make.
Net net, we are looking at more efficient services. Right? So the question we need to start addressing here is, how do we bring in, ensure confidentiality into the process,
Right.
right? Looking at the information, is the information kept confidential? Can somebody access it and alter the information?
Right.
Or when I need it, can I have it?
Have
Right?
it.
So if I recall your question, you're talking about paper and the digital, right?
Yes. Yes.
So when I was thinking about, one of the things I recall is my younger days, school days.
Okay.
We used to go to the library. So
Okay.
when I went to the university, I still spent a lot of time reading books.
Right.
And sometimes what we do is, okay, the content is good. The first thing we would do is go to a photocopy shop and photocopy. We never had these digital devices
Yes.
in our hands. So we would make copies of it. Now, reflect the same thing, right? You have a document which should be kept confidential,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
it is available. So somebody could retrieve it. make a copy of it.
Okay.
Right? So in the modern days, we have a photocopy or thing in our hand. Right? You
Yes.
have a digital device in our hand, so you quickly take snaps.
Very true.
Right? And within a few minutes, you can disseminate it to different people.
And the relevant people.
And the relevant or the irrelevant people, right?
Irrelevant
If
people.
people
Yeah.
have an ulterior motive, they
Mm.
can take this confidential information and disseminate it to people who should not have access to it.
Mm. When you're having it in paper.
Yeah. Now we are talking about an insecure process. Right?
Mm.
While it is convenient, but then you can also lose information in a way you will not even know how you lost it.
Mm.
Now think about those days. Probably you're too young to recall this scenario. If you have walked into some of the old offices,
Okay.
every top executive had a secretary,
Okay.
and the secretary would have a filing cabinet, and all documents, files are kept there.
Kept there.
And she or he would have an index of all the files. And if somebody goes and takes a file, she would make a note. Okay, Sujit took this file on this day at this time, and until it is written, like think of the library again. Right? You go to the library, you borrow a book,
Borrow a book
until you return it, it is kept in your name, right? And if you
Exactly.
don't return it within that day, they leave you a penalty. So now this file can go anywhere,
Everywhere.
everywhere, and you have no trace
Yeah.
to know where it went.
And no
I
control
can
over it
let's
too.
imagine let's imagine that the scenario is I'm the secretary, you're taking the file, you walk out of this door. Is it going to be with you? You may leave it on the table. Somebody else can go
Then
have
come
a
and
read,
take it.
take it. Or somebody, you may even take it and give it to somebody else outside. Okay, I have half an hour.
Mm.
Take it, do whatever you want, and come and return it in half an hour. And you
Wow.
can return it back. So it's about thinking from that perspective. That's not the only aspect we need to worry about. We also need to create awareness, make people accountable for their actions.
Right.
Right? So awareness is also important. Right? So how this would change the landscape from a digital perspective is you can keep the information in one single location.
Yes.
You can decide who you need to grant access on a
True.
need basis,
Exactly.
need to do basis. You can have a audit log of who accessed it, when they accessed. You can also decide what kind of permissions you want to give that individual. Are
Right.
you going to give read only access or read write access? Do you want to give print access?
Or
Right?
download.
Download access, all that, right? So you are now doing it in a more scientific way where you could actually bring in more safety measures to this conversation.
Conversation. Right. And have more control.
More control.
Right.
So to summarize, you have an asset which is your information. You decide who will have access to it, for how long they will have access to it. And when you feel that they don't need further access, you can remove it centrally,
Right.
right? And then you also have a traceability in terms of the actions they have taken,
Perfect.
right? So it creates a audit trail.
Yeah.
And if it is integrated to your directory services in the organization, so your control is centralized. When the person leaves the organization, you remove access from the directory services. All services are terminated.
Right.
Does it?
Perfect.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, and it is all well put together. You summarized it just right, Sujit. So, Sujit, now are you ready for a fireside chat?
As long as you don't set this place on fire.
Definitely, I'm not going to set this place on fire though, but I'm going to set this conversation on fire though. All right, all right. Now, Sujit, here comes your first fireside chat question. Okay, AI in cybersecurity, is that the hero that we need or the villain we fear?
Okay, let me put this in context.
Hmm.
Let's imagine that it's a movie about cybersecurity or cyber safety. Then you need to have a hero, you need to have a villain. But in today's context, the villain seems to have the upper hand. The hero is always falling behind. What that means is that we have more cyber crimes being committed globally, and there are losses which are staggering. Right? And it's probably very soon going to be the number one GDP over the rest of it. Right? So our challenge, this technology in the hands of the people who have a wrong motive can be misused.
Right.
Then they become villains. Right? Because we're going to have a lot of people who are going to fall victim to cybercrime. Let me give you an example. We're talking about AI being used to create deep fakes. And there are documented cases where organizations have lost millions of dollars. So AI technology in the hands of the wrong people, it can be misused or to cause harm to humans and
Humans.
organizations. And there are documented cases where deepfakes have been
Wow.
used to deceive businesses. So there are few documented. I'm sure there are so many cases which are out there where people may not be reporting it or it's still not surfaced to the hit the
Hit the
headlines.
headlines yet.
Right? So there's also the deepfakes being used to harm individuals.
Absolutely.
Impersonation, right? So there are cases about film personalities documented, and I'm sure it is happening with individuals as well, where people may be using it to blackmail.
Mm.
It's a scary situation where I say scary because this can also be used to intimidate people in the organizations,
Organization.
probably to commit something which they otherwise would not do, or even force them to you know do transactions, siphon off
Yeah.
money. I mean, for me, it's like thinking of various movies, right? So where it can what happens in the movies, it happens here as well. But from a hero perspective, if you take AI as a hero, I would say more than a hero, I would say they are supporting actors,
Right.
right? So I would use the word supporting
Supporting
actors,
actors.
where this technology can be a personal assistant,
Wow.
right? So they can help people do certain routine tasks or automate certain processes from a cybersecurity perspective. There are certain mundane tasks which the analysts will have to do. So you can
Yes.
reduce that fatigue or the workload, which is actually growing by the day. Right? So the number of digital transactions when it grows, the number of logs also will increase. The
Increase.
signals will increase. Right? So
Exactly.
so how do you sift through this to detect a, a security incident
Incident. Yeah.
and to do investigations, right? And today, I mean, what my kids do is they have actually automated certain alerts on the device. So the moment I leave, a message gets flashed around to everybody saying, "Papa has left
Left
home."
the. Oh
Right?
wow.
Or
Okay.
when they reach the university, I get a message saying they've reached the university. So they have to call me. Or even if I'm in a meeting, I know that they have reached their destination, right?
Safely.
So certain things can be automated and take that routine,
Routine.
human intervention out of your uh,
Wow.
activity list.
And
So that
stay connected.
stay connected.
Right.
So likewise, the organization can benefit massively by adopting AI. A lot of people may even think, okay, they may lose their jobs. It's not about losing jobs. It's about bringing that balance and enhancing the way you do work.
Do work. Exactly. Amazing. All right. Since you mentioned a movie, now my next rapid fire chat question to Sujit is: what is one of the best movies that you have watched that explains this perspective of cybersecurity so well?
Several of them,
Okay.
right? I mean, when you started saying movies, and oh my God, I mean, how many movies have I watched and which one is this, right? So for me, I'm going to mention a few, right, for the benefit of those beautiful people who are listening to our conversation. One of them is Jurassic Park. I'm sure all of you have watched Jurassic Park. Kids love it,
Yes, I love
right?
it too.
Yeah, and I've watched it so many times with my kids. I've lost count. All what we know is somebody did something they were not supposed to do. An egg was taken out of the lab.
Lab.
Think about it from a security perspective, violation of access control,
Yes.
right? Unauthorized access, espionage. You can link
Hmm.
a lot of things to
Things.
this, right? Then there's another movie called Firewall. right? And look for it, look up for it. You may find it in Netflix or any other streaming platforms. It's about a CISO, or head of information security. The bad guys had the history of the family. They knew the DNA of the family,
Wow.
to the extent they knew if they fed peanut butter to the son, that he would develop a
Allegedly.
allergy and die. So they go to his house, call him up and say, hey, we are here. If you don't do this, we are going to feed him that.
Wow.
Right? I'm not going to tell you all the things in the story, right? So that's one, right? So you're talking about, publishing details about you and your family. It's also important, right? If you're in this field, so you need to manage what you put out in the public domain, and what conversations you have in the public domain is also very, very important, because some of those things can be used to cause you to do certain activities. The third and the last one I would say is Die Hard.
Die Hard.
Right?
Any Die Hard fans out there?
Right.
Then
So,
it's time you should listen to Sujit
right.
very close.
So watch all the Die Hard movies, one, two, three, four. The four, Die Hard 4, if you watch it today, you can relate to what's happening around the world. Right? So it's an inside job. The head of security did not know that his boss was doing something, or somebody hired to him was not doing something.
Oh.
And when he questions in the midst of this investigation, the answer he was given is, your salary grade does not permit you to have access to that piece of information.
Whoa.
So they had a person who was at a lower salary grade, which did not allow him to have access to that information. So this is something you guys also need to think about, right? You need to bring people who can command that respect, and you need to give them, empower them, and support them to do their work.
Right.
Right? So that the independence is maintained. And then the story goes on. These guys, because he was disgruntled employee, he wanted to take control of the infrastructure. So he brings down the traffic lights, to the extent he was even trying to take control of the power distribution.
Oh, electricity.
Electricity. So if you look at the geopolitics, we've seen it, and we've also seen we also had outages, right? I'm not going to delve into it. Right? Though I said that's the final one, but I would also like you to watch the movie Speed.
Yeah.
Right? It's on the yacht, the last one. I can't remember, Speed 2 or 3, where the whole movie is in a yacht, and we are talking about Internet of Things, OT, operations technology, where every aspect in the boat is taken control by this individual. So they control the whole boat. So it's important for all of you to have an inventory of all what you use in the organization, information, technology, software, inventory of it, and know where it is being used, how it is being used, and who has access to it. Right? Watch all these movies. Remember me for sharing these thoughts. And if you do have any questions, speak to Malisha, and then we can have a conversation with you.
Yes, now Sujit did give you a list of movies that you can watch in this holiday season, so you should definitely take his recommendation, I would say.
Do not regret.
Now, Sujit, I have the third fireside chat question for you.
Mhm.
Now, this could be a little bit of a tip to our audience too, right? Which is more dangerous? Clicking on a suspicious link or leaving your laptop open without closing it?
Malisha, you have a knack of asking thought provoking questions. You put me in a spot where I can't give yes
Oh no.
or no answer. I have to explain the answer. Right?
Okay.
Starting number one, right? Let's look at the laptop scenario.
Okay.
My first thought would be, is it kept unattended?
Mm.
Right? Or it's kept in a place which is vulnerable, where somebody can just take it and walk away. Right? That's the priority concern. The second is, have you kept it open? When I say kept it open, not just the screen open, but logged in, and somebody can just log in and have access to the information. So it works both ways, right? You take it away, you can still have access to the device, or you keep it open, somebody can still have access to the device and the content within it. But a professional out there may say, hey, Sujit, hold on. What if my data is encrypted?
Right.
Then that problem does not arise, right? So
Hmm.
you lose your device. People may not be able to decrypt it. I won't say they will not be able to. You're making it harder.
Harder, yes.
But let's take another step. What if you're using an information management system or a filing system, a
System.
digital system where you keep all the information in a central location?
Location.
So what is it? It is like your Uber. You get in from your home, you arrive at the destination, the car leaves.
Right.
You get safely to your destination.
Destination.
So is your information, right?
Yes.
So information is kept in one single location. So you grant secure access to the people. And even if the laptop is taken, you are going to run through multiple levels of authentication.
Authentication.
Right? So
Exactly.
even if this, so you are building a layered defense. Right? Now answering your second question. Link, suspicious link. The question is, how many people could even identify that
That
the
the
link
link is
is
suspicious.
suspicious,
Yes.
right? So for an ordinary citizen, he may not have all the money in the world to
Exactly.
implement security controls. So
Very
that's
true.
the thing, right? So they would still click. That's where I was talking about the cyber safety,
Cyber safety.
right? So are we building safety practices into our process?
Hmm.
Right? So even if they click, is there a way you can protect them? Or have you created sufficient awareness that they are conscious that the actions they take will have an impact on
Impact
them
on them.
and their lives?
Right.
Right? So this is something an organization alone can do, right? So we need to bring in the government on one side, then we bring in the organizations which are specializing in this space, then we also need to bring in the professionals and the professional bodies to create those awareness.
Awareness.
So it's a collective effort which we need to create.
Create.
Right?
All right.
So from an organization perspective, you also need to look at multiple layers,
Of
right?
security.
Today, I wouldn't want to name any specific vendor for that matter, right? I mean, today they're building in controls, right? You click, it goes through various checks, or even before the mail is delivered to you, they can validate it,
Validate it.
right? And say the content is clean or not. Or if it is suspicious, they would probably say, suspicious, do you still want to trust?
Trust it. Oh, right.
Right? So when you get a message, don't go click on it. Call the person and ask, hey, have you said this? What have you sent?
Said.
Right? Let's take a moment to get on a call with the people and ask them, okay, did you send it? What is it? Then you know that it has come from a trusted person. Then you
Person.
can confidently go and click.
Open it.
So I think the method to this madness is being patient,
Hmm.
not in a hurry to click on anything,
Definitely not.
because I think we are trying to travel at a pace faster than light.
Exactly.
Right? And I think I was also sharing with you before the conversation started. I was listening to a quote by Denzel Washington. The question he was asking is, are we controlling the
The
device
devices.
or the device controlling you?
Exactly.
Right? So if it is the second, then you are compelled to click on everything out there. So I think
Exactly.
you need to pause and ask yourself the question, are you in a rush? Slow down.
Okay. Now, finally, we have come to the end of the fireside chat, and I'm going to give you a small challenge. All
Mhm.
right. If you put security and digital transformation together in a single word, what would that word be?
Security and transformation. And you want a single word.
Yes.
I'm going to do a hybrid.
Right.
Trust
Uh huh.
and safety.
Trust and safety.
Right? Why do we need to pay attention to trust? We need to build processes where people can trust. And from a safety perspective, do we have the guardrails built into those processes?
Process.
Right? So it's definitely not a single word answer. I wish it could have been a single word answer, but you need to bring these two together,
Together.
and then there are different pillars which support these two keywords. Those
Nice.
are my thoughts.
Nice. Now, Sujit, we have a scenario for you.
Hmm.
Okay. Imagine you have a friend who's a business owner.
Hmm.
All right. Now, he's very used to signing his documents on a piece of paper, let's say. So the classic pen and paper. Now he's on a thought process, and he had thought to himself, now it's high time that I might be using an electronic method to do it, right? And he had a discussion with you about it too. Days later, you get a call from this person, panicking, saying that, Sujit, listen, I'm in a place where I can't travel to sign a document. And do you remember we had the conversation about doing it in an electronic way? I think now I'm right in the need of doing that. So, would you suggest me signing a document through an electronic signature application? If so, what is the security and compliance aspect of it? Should I go ahead with it? Sujit, now this is your question from your friend. How would you answer it?
Wonderful question, Malisha,
Right.
because I know traditionally all of us are used to signing with a pen and paper.
Yeah.
And if you go back ages ago,
Uh-huh.
thumbprints,
Yes.
right? So you put your print, your fingerprint on this one, right? But today, when your business is digitized, you're going through a digital transformation, and you need to you're not restricted to a single location or a place to do business. You're going to be global.
Yeah.
So if you've got to go sign a document, let's say you've got to fly from here to New York to sign a document, it's impractical and it's stupid, I would say.
Yeah.
Right. So there are better ways of doing it. The governments across the world have started adopting it, and I would like to mention the Indian government started doing this way back in 2006,
Wow.
where all the filings had to be done digitally.
Nice.
So you got to sign all your financial records, your annual returns, everything using a digital signature,
Signature.
right?
Hmm.
So that's a good reference point.
Yeah.
Right? So what's the benefit? What's the benefit? There are a lot of benefits. Today, it's easy to forge a signature.
Very
Right?
true.
And I'm also hearing unverified that people are able to scrape your fingerprints as well, and use it to forge transactions, digital transactions, if you're using this. So I'm still strongly advocating you need to be looking at multi-factor authentication from an authentication perspective. But coming back to the question, looking at the security and compliance requirement, there are certain elements we need to bear in mind. So why do we sign a document? What is the objective of it? Right? So we want to establish that the person who signs it will not say, "Oh, I never signed this."
Right.
Right? So there's some way. So when you do a physical signature, you expect two people to witness it.
Yes. That's why we have witnesses.
That's where we have witnesses.
Yes.
So here what we're trying to achieve is we need to ensure non-repudiation in a secure way.
Way.
Right? So in order to achieve it, the digital signature, the way it is developed, it ensures that. Right? I'm not going to get into the technical side of it, but I want to give assurance to the people that if you're trying to use a reputed, trusted signature provider, you can confidently go and do that. Of course, do your due diligence, but you can do that. The second thing, second most important thing, what you also want to ensure is that nobody has altered the contents in the document.
Right. Tamper proofing it.
Tamper proofing it,
Right.
absolutely, that's a word. Right? So in a in a physical document, somebody has to recreate it
Exactly.
and then forge the signatures.
Exactly.
Now, in the digital signature, you can actually overcome those challenges. Because if let's say, if you have to prove the document has been tampered in a physical case,
Yeah.
you've got to engage the forensics experts, the signature experts, writing
Yes.
experts,
Yes.
all that, right? So it's a huge process.
Process. Exactly.
And then many times people may not have the resources
To do
to,
that as
to
well,
establish
right?
that as well,
Exactly.
right? Or they may not even know.
No. Yeah.
But here, the advantage is when you use a, a reliable provider or a signature, digital signature, if the content is all tampered with, it will indicate to you that the content has changed. So
Right.
the signature becomes invalid.
Invalid. Yes.
right? So two key objectives you can achieve out of this. One is non-repudiation. The other one is the integrity of the information. Now
Right.
think about it from an organization perspective. Today, people can be right altering information
Yes, yes.
for various reasons, right? Maybe to achieve certain personal objectives, gain advantage of using this technology, where it also provides you the greater assurance,
Yes.
right? The document has not been tampered with, or the information what you have in file is reliable. You can depend on it. And the person who approved it can never say that he never approved it.
Approved.
Or the person who created the document can never say that,
That
oh, I
he
never did
did
this.
this exactly
Right?
because it's all there in the trail.
Exactly, right? So it brings in a greater assurance. And even if you want to extend this conversation to safety, you can do that as
Do that
well.
as
Now,
well.
look at it from a code perspective. You
Mm.
develop a repository of source code. You want to ensure the code has not changed. So you can find ways of digitally signing all that and ensuring a method to identify if something changes in the code.
Right.
So there are several uses where we can put to use. So I guess the organization should start having this conversation, especially in the Sri Lanka. Some organizations have already adopted, but I think there are greater use for this. I mean, several use cases where this can be
Can
applied.
be applied.
Yes, absolutely.
Amazing.
And of
Okay.
course, the last but not the least, I mean, I'm just going to refer to the conversation or the statements made by Excellency President.
Right.
He is talking about bringing in efficient government
Government
citizen
citizens.
services,
Yes.
right? So this is one way they can also improve efficiency, right? So
In their
get rid of all the
processes, right?
papers,
Yes.
digitize, bring in digital signatures, so I don't have to go stand in a queue to do something. Right? I can sit
Exactly.
in my comfort, maybe in the desert as long as Starlink is available for me,
Or there's a
right?
Wi-Fi in the desert.
Yeah, that's what Starlink will provide the connectivity.
Right.
I am connected in the desert,
Mm.
chilling out there and signing all my returns. Yeah,
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, Sujit. Now, same scenario. Okay. Let's put it in a different way. Okay. You're in a forum, right? Where you're meeting with large, medium, and small enterprises. Okay. Now, these enterprises are all who are currently having a very paper heavy process. That means all their documents and everything are in paper. Now, they have come to this forum for your advice why it's high time for them to get rid of all these papers and maybe acquire an electronic document management system. And they also want to know from you what is the security and compliance aspect of an electronic document management system. Is it safe to keep their documents in a tool like that?
absolutely. Right. I mean, in one word, I would say yes,
Right,
but there are qualifiers. Right?
right.
So I won't say one size fits all.
Hmm.
So every organization has their own requirements. Likewise, every service provider has a unique service
Survive,
proposition, right?
yes,
And every service provider has to ensure that their processes can be trusted.
exactly.
Right? Their processes are secure, so they can establish safety. So if I am a small business, I'm very vulnerable.
Yes,
Right? One wrong action, I can be out of business. So
business,
my
exactly.
survival
Mm.
becomes a big challenge, right? So it leads to a safety conversation. So you need to ensure, the service provider needs to ensure their practices are far superior to the practices of
Practices
the
of
organization.
organization.
So that's the prerequisite.
Right.
Now you take look at the global giants, right? I mean, they have audits,
Mm.
they have process reviews,
Yes,
and they have independent people reviewing their practices. And some of those certificates are available for you to review it.
exactly.
Right. So in some of the local contexts, you may even look at adopting best practices, like adopt an ISO standard. I would say ISO 9000 is the mother of all standards.
Standards,
Right.
exactly.
So you adopt it. Right. So you look at your process, re-engineer your process,
Mm.
or you
Reshape the process.
yes, and then when you're adopting or introducing a partner to manage all your documents, these things will help.
Help.
Right? It's not shift lift and shift.
Hmm.
Right? You also need to go through this. So some of those things we may be doing it for the sake of doing it,
Doing it, exactly.
right? And we may not even question because it is working well for us.
Very true.
Right? Maybe
Agreed.
it is the most inefficient way of doing it.
Hmm.
Right? So you may want to have that conversation with your partner, the
Partner.
proposed partner as well. But to answer your last part of the question, is it secure? As long as your partner can establish
The security practice.
that their practices are globally, they are in line with the global best practices,
Yes. Hmm.
and support that with independent reviews,
Right.
they are all set. So
Set.
you don't have to think about
Think
it, right?
about it too
But
much.
having said that, accountability still lies with the organization for you, for them to do the due diligence.
Exactly.
Right? So what I'm saying is, I have a house, I let it out on rent to somebody. There are certain rules I would impose on my tenant.
Right.
At the end of the day, I'm still the owner of the
Owner of
house,
the house. Exactly.
right?
You're the
So
principal.
yeah, so when I own the information, I need to ensure my practices are also aligned well, right? That I give access to the right people,
Right.
because your service provider is not going to do that for
Do
you.
that for you. Yes.
But they will have the framework in place, but you need
So
to
that you
build
can
your
do it. Yes.
standard operating procedures are in place so that you can govern this whole thing start to end.
All right, Sujit. Now to the final question of this segment. Okay. Since you mentioned the house scenario in your previous answer, I'm going to put this question in this way. All right. Outsourcing trust, especially when organizations are adapting to digital tools that's outside their organization to do their daily business activities. Now, when they're outsourcing this kind of trust, it's more like handing over your house keys to someone else. But in this process, we also should make sure that the person to whom we gave the key is trustable and won't cause us any harm. What's your advice on that perspective to organizations who are outsourcing the trust currently?
So let me put it this way, right? I'll give you an analogy. At some point in time in our life, we would still need to visit a doctor. Does it mean that we need to have a doctor in house? Or does it mean that I have to have my own hospital? Does it mean that I need to have my own ambulances?
Definitely not.
Right? Now, put yourself in the shoes of the hospital.
Okay.
Sometimes they own the building,
Yeah.
but they bring in all the facilities in, and it is provided by different people.
People.
You look at the medical equipment, probably it is imported from Germany,
Yeah.
because Germany is one of those countries of sophisticated technologies available in the medical sciences,
Of course. Yeah.
right? So again, they would supply the equipment, they would maintain it from there.
Right.
Does a hospital own the ambulances?
No.
No, so they will outsource it, right? So there's a
Exactly.
company which actually provides. So what's the expectation? That the ambulance service provider would get to the patient and bring them in real quick time, right?
Okay.
Within certain parameters. Right?
Right.
So I think that's a conversation we need to look at. Okay, what is that we would like to do and focus on? What are those things we could actually entrust it to a third
Third
party
party.
who has better practices, better processes, better guardrails than us to do it?
Right.
So we would have to look at the people, the process, the technology. Right? So if they have the right people, the right processes, and the right technology, why not?
Of course. Why not? Perfect, Sujit. So, this unfortunately brings us to the very last moment of our episode. And I'll take this moment actually to thank you very much for taking time out of your life, coming here, sitting with us, and spilling so much facts on security and digital transformation. And I am pretty sure that everyone who is watching this episode would have cleared the doubts of digital transformation. Is it secure or not? So I'm very happy with this episode today, Sujit. Thank you so much for coming here and shedding light on so many aspects and so many topics. And thank you for accepting our fireside challenge and the challenges we gave you and doing it perfectly. Once again, thank you very much for coming to our episode and sharing your expertise with us.
Malisha, thank you so much for taking time to speak with me. Uh,
Of course.
it was thought provoking, and definitely the fireside chat
Set
was
on fire.
it was set on fire. I would say for for those beautiful people out there who are listening to this conversation, take a moment to reflect on some of those things we have spoken. You may have questions, you may have doubts, or you may have concerns about certain things in your organization. Alicia or myself,
Yes.
you can reach us. We'd be more than happy to have that conversation with you and help you with that journey. And once again, I want to thank you and your management for hosting me for this wonderful show. I
Yes.
enjoyed it.
Perfect.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much, Sujit. Thank you so much. So, people, that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for joining with us and listening to us. And I'm pretty sure that you would have taken away some educational information and find the answers to, is digital transformation really secure? See you then. I'll meet you in the next episode. Bye.